So let's move on for the topic manage file transfers. So what we're going to discuss about today is about how you can securely transfer information from one system to another. In Frends, which is our integration platform, we have a capability to utilize 30 years old product called Cobalt. It has been developed from the beginning of the FTP services, and on our current environment, on our current capabilities of our integrations, we have the service task inside our French offering, which is actually utilizing this 30-year-old technology. So we are able to transfer information between legacy systems and also for modern systems. On the right side, you can actually see high-level view about the architecture. We can actually schedule a file transfer depending on your needs. It might be on minutes, hours, daily basis, weekly basis, and so on. And if there are rush hours, we can schedule more. We can fetch information from different data sources and push that information to another source. And after that, that's a simple process, which can be managed by Frends. What do we have on the functional architecture side? We can actually schedule different kind of processes which are utilizing the Cobalt transfer tasks. On the right side, you can actually see a window how you can actually configure the platform utilizing FTP services. What you need to do is to have the directory, the staging area where you want to fetch the information, the actual file name, and then the server address and port. And same applies for the destination. After we've done the actual transfer, we can actually monitor what's happening during the actual operations. We can also have a centralized configuration of the transfer tasks. We have different kind of environments: development, testing, quality assurance, and production. For each environment, we can have a centralized configuration where you can define the directory structures, the file names, the server addresses, the ports, etc. During the transformation and transfer, we can actually modify the XML files, for example, which can be transferred from one location to another. We can utilize XSLT for doing that. We can also back up the files during the transform. And in the final state, we can actually clean up the temporary files from both from the source and destination environments. And we can actually have a recursive creation of directory structures inside the destination. We gather the full operation log during the full transfer. So it's a transparent operation. What do we support on the Frends side? We have the out from the box functionality for the following protocols: FTP, which is a standard file transfer protocol, FTPS, and SFTP. SFTP is a modern way of transferring large files with different kind of authentication, authorization, and also the cryptography methodologies. We are also supporting on Windows and Linux-based file systems. So we are able to have a staging over files from one file share to another. So that is also possible. Not only FTP, SFTP, or FTPS. We also support the file directory staging areas and also streaming services. What happens during the transfer? So when we read the information from files, the transfer process goes through the following steps. First, we initialize. We initialize the transfers and open the source connection. We retrieve the list of files and navigate to the correct directory. and listed all of the files which are matching into the given file mask. After that, we transfer the files. Each file is transferred individually. And the following steps are applied for each file. We rename or move the file according to the settings. We retrieve or transmit the file depending on the use case. We delete, rename, and move the original transferred files. We apply additional steps such as backups, filtering, transformations, etc. And then we are finished. So what does it actually mean when we have a managed file transfer monitoring? As you can see, we have many steps during the process. We have the triggering point when we start the actual process. When should we schedule? Is it every day, every morning? Which clock time? Is there some rush hours during the month? Are there some dates which shouldn't be actually transferred to files, like holidays? The next step is to decide where are we retrieving the data. Is it the file system, FTP, FTPS, SFTP, streaming services? After that, when we retrieve the data, we can filter the data, we can modify it, and after that, we can push it into the destination. In the destination part, we can actually think what shall we do for the original files in the original destination or in the original source. What should we do with the new directory structures in the new location? Should we rename it? What shall we do? And after that, we can finish. All of this needs to be monitored. And after that, when we've monitored, we can write an operation log. On the right side, you can actually see that we start a connection speed test to a specific server. We know what kind of operating system it is. We know what kind of credentials is needed to access the services. There's something related to the actual FTP protocol. There is some file changing permissions. And then from the TCP IP protocol and FTP protocol point of view, we are making the kind of the protocol exchange information. All of this needs to be monitored. And we do the same for the destination. So we monitor each step. So it's audit traceable. We are able to see what happens during the file transfer. We also get notified if there are errors. So it's very important to understand that what kind of issues there exist. So let's review what happened. So let's open up a Frends environment. What you can see here is the Frends self-service portal, where we have the actual Cobalt product integrated. You can actually see the service task, which is called the transfer, download and upload 20 megabytes of file. On the right side, you can see the source, where you can choose from which protocol we are utilizing. Is the file, is the FTP, SFTP, FTPS, or service bus? Where do we want to retrieve the information? Based on that, we are able to define the directory structure, where to read the information from. What is the file name, the server address, the port, the username and password. And also we are able to define the transport type and mode. And we can just simple add some connection timeout information. We can also define maximum number of retries. We do the same for destination part. We can choose where to upload the information. Is it the staging, or is it the directory structure on the destination side? Is it FTP server, SFTP, FTPS, or service bus? We can choose the directory. For later on, we can also create those directories by demand. We can choose what is the file name. We can actually utilize a small code block here. And we are also able to define the address, the port, the username, and passwords. We have also some message processing steps. We can make local backups, XSLT transformation, some encoding, bulk locking, and file system backups. And finally, we have the transfer parameters. We can rename source files before the transfer. So if there is a temporary directory where the files which are currently processed, they can be actually pushed into another temporary file system. We can rename the destination file during the transfer. We can create the destination directories. We can build them on recursive way. What happens if the file exists on the destination part? We can throw an error flag. We can append the information. Let's say it's an XML. We can append the XML into the existing file. We can also override, which is the default functionality. And we can also define the source operations. What happens to those files which has been successfully transferred? Are we deleting, renaming, moving, or let them be? So now let's see what happens. So in the first step, you can actually see the scheduling window. You're able to choose from which time you start, when it's repeated every 2 minutes, seconds, hours. And on the advanced settings sides, you can actually see when it's going to be executed. Is it daily, weekly, monthly? And you can also choose that never on these dates. And the final part is to finalize the process. This is the full process what we are going to look after. So let's try it. So here, run once. Let's run it. So we have the FTP server name. Let's run it. As you can see, it started working. And let's go and review. So here you can see the monitoring events. As you can see, there are lots of successful operations, and we can see the operation log file here. And we will get notified when everything is up and running. So we started 12:15, and the duration was 17 seconds. Then there is another schedule for every 2 minutes. So let's open up and see what happened. So we can actually see what happened during the transformation. So from the operations log point of view, we connected to the speed test, Tele2. We defined the username as an anonymous. Login was successful. We switched to ASCII mode, and we entered into the passive mode. And now we start looking for the directory structures. And then we do the same for the destination part. The server is the same, but each another directory. So we log in with the anonymous account. Logging was successful. We enter into the passive mode. And now we are going to transfer the 2 megabit zip file and push it into the FTP side. And finally, when everything is done, we send the data, and the transfer is complete. File transfer succeeded. 2 megabytes. Chip. Cleanup of files. Removing temporary file. So here you can see that we have the temp file available, and we actually deleted that one. And that's it. We're good to go. Now the final step, everything is cleared. So really simple monitoring of the actual environment. And as you can see, the scheduled window also started, and it also was a successful operation. We can also zoom and see what happened during the day. You can see the peak hours, how many processes there were, which were successful, and which one failed. We can also have a fine-grained lookups on the actual events, what's happening. And we can also look back of the trend data. So that's all from the Frends integration capabilities with Cobalt, which has been developed for 30 years. And now, if you have any open questions, please write them to us, so we will reply for you all. Thank you very much for your time.